WordPress has changed the game when it comes to creating websites, and with themes and theme builders, it's easier than ever to create a website. Well, easier, yes, but not necessarily as easy as some people may think. But don't panic, because in this video, I'm going to share with you my workflow for creating websites with WordPress
and Elementor Pro.
Hello, I'm your host Casino. I'm a digital alchemist, and today I'm going to share with you my workflow for creating a website with WordPress and Elementor Pro. Now, if you're creating just one website for yourself or your business, now this will give you a handy roadmap for your project. And if you create websites for other businesses, this may help you assess the work involved and quote accordingly. And cherry on the cake, this may even help you help your client understand why you charge what you charge. Now, one word about this video. I will go quickly because we have many items to cover, and covering everything would take a full course. So I won't be covering specifics about website redesign, enhanced security, and maintenance for the website today, but I may be covering those in future episodes. However, while I won't go into too many details, I will cover what you need to know to have a clear outline of the steps involved, and my wish is that you can use this video as well as a companion blog post as a reference when kickstarting a new website project. So enough talking.
Let's dive in.
Okay, the very first step that you want to start with is the brief. And that is valid even though you're just creating a website for yourself and not for a client. You want to go through the brief because with the brief, you will know exactly where you're going and you can plan up front. So make sure you have a thorough brief and that you really look at each and every aspect of the project. And trust me, later on in the project, you thank me. So make sure you write your brief, make sure you really go through each and every step in the process, what you want to achieve with this website. As I've put here, the scope, the goals, the features, also go and look for some inspiration, what you like, what you don't like, and if there's any additional info, write it here because this document you will come back to at different steps in the process. The next logical steps is to create wireframes. Now, if you're not familiar with wireframes, basically it's a basic sketch of what you want to put in the page. And at this stage, you don't start designing yet. Now, some people design straight in the browser. Some people go straight to design. With experience, you may get away with it. And sometimes I must confess, I do it because I have the wireframes in my head. But the good practice is really to draw wireframes either on paper or you can do some really basic stuff here on the computer. And if you want some more advanced tools, there are tools like wireframes, wireframe.cc. I believe they have a free version you can try for one project. If you know you're going to be building a lot of website and you want a professional solution, then this type of tools may be interesting. Basically, it's a sketch, but you do on the computer and you will go faster, it will be cleaner, and you can share it with your customers. They can approve it, and once they approve it, we'll move to the next step. And in my workflow, the next step is moodboarding. So basically, moodboard is a collection of items, visual items that you like or that your customer like, and this is the direction you want to take. So what I do usually is I would just copy and paste. I will make screenshots of parts of website that I like. Once again, it's not about stealing. It's just about, having inspiration. If I know I want a minimal website, I'm going to go and have a look at a lot of minimal websites. And then I'm just going to use that imagery so that I can start to have a feel for the design that I want to create. And depending on the project, sometimes I will share that mood board with my client and sometimes not. It depends really on the brief and the freedom that I have. But basically, this is where I start before I make a design. So for me, this is the step between the wireframes and in the later stages when I start designing. And it's really helpful because I will, in a snapshot, I know, okay, I want to use that kind of colors, that kind of bold fonts. I like that kind of image here. And for example, if there's a photographer involved in the project, I can show him or her that picture. For example, let's say, this is what I want for the front page. And it's way easier to brief someone when you already have examples of what you want to achieve in the end. So basically, that's about mood boarding. It depends. It can take 30 minutes up to a few hours. It really depends on the scope. of the project, on the budget, and a whole lot of different settings, but you get the idea. The next step is image optimization, and I'm not going to go deep into this topic because I've already released a video just about that. So make sure you check the description or the companion blog post where you find all the links of all the tools and services presented in this episode. But basically what we're going to do is to first optimize with an app like Photoshop or Affinity Photo that I'm using today. And by the way, I'm using both and I love both for different reasons. But basically, I'm going to play with the settings, try to optimize the first level with the app. And then I will move to free tools like TinyPNG, which is an online tool that you can find on tinypng.com. And it's really handy. It works really well. And you can go from a few megabytes to a few hundred kilobytes or even less. And if you're looking for a professional solution, you can also try ShorePixel. By professional, actually, I meant premium solution. You can try ShorePixel that I've also already talked about in that episode that I mentioned earlier. But whatever you do, make sure you optimize your images. The next step in my workflow is to set up a development environment. Now, if you want something free, you can try Local by Flywheel. Basically, it's an app that will replicate a server, but on your local machine. So it's not really on the web, but you can test everything on your local machine. And then when you're happy with it, you can put it into on a web server. Now, what you can also do is to use the web hosting and create a development environment right on your web hosting. Now, I use cPanel, and that's what cPanel looks like. I'm not going to go deep about cPanel today because there's a lot. I could do a full course just about that, but you don't need to know everything. Basically, depending on your web host, you may have an option like the WordPress manager right here at the bottom, or something like Softaculous. And when you launch Softaculous, that's what it looks like. I'm on the demo on the Softaculous website, but unfortunately the demo is not working. But basically when you click on the icon here, WordPress, you're going to set up a WordPress install right on your server. So usually what I do is I create a subdomain that could be dev or demo, and then I will create a development version of my website before I put it on the production website. And by production, I mean on the live website. So either you do it local with a free tool like Local by Flywheel, or you can do it on your web server with the help of cPanel and the WordPress manager or Softaculous. Next, once I've installed WordPress, I'll change the site title, the tagline. I can also change the admin email address, and then I can set the date format, the time format, and so on. Very important also the language and the time zone, especially important for the blog posts, especially if you want to schedule blog posts. Next, I go to settings reading, and if you already have a page, you can select a page as a home page, but we'll see that later because usually at that stage you don't have any page yet, so you come back to this spot later. Don't forget to do that to specify your homepage. But right now, what I want to do is discourage the search engines from indexing this site. So I'm just going to take that option and I save the changes. Now, depending on the type of project you're working on, that may not be enough because some search engines would just ignore this setting. So if that's the case, once you've installed Elementor, you can go to Elementor Tools and then go to the Maintenance Mode tab, and you need to activate Maintenance. And for that, you need to select a template for the maintenance page. And it's very easy to do. You have a link to create one right here. And basically, you're going to create a template with Elementor. And then you're going to tell Elementor, use that template for the maintenance page. And what happened next is that visitors of your website will see the maintenance template, whereas you as an admin will keep on seeing the actual content of your website. Now, at this stage in the process, we're not supposed to have installed Elementor yet, so you may have to come back to this page later once you've installed all the plugins. Now, the next step is to set up the permalinks of your website, and basically the permalinks are the URLs or the addresses of the pages of your website. And to change that, you go to Settings, Permalinks, and by default, one of these options should be selected, but I always select post name. Now, you may want to select something else, but that works fine for me. I select post name, and once I'm happy, I'm just going to click on Save Changes. And once it's saved, instead of seeing URLs from your website with elements such as $P123 blah blah blah, you see actually the name of the page you're on, and that's why we want to use permalink structure. Now, the next step is to install and activate a WordPress theme. Here you can see I've installed the Astra theme, but you could use the 2019. And if you want to add a new theme from the WordPress repository, all you have to do is click on Add New, and then you'll be presented with a bunch of very nice themes, even though I prefer to use premium themes, and I've already explained why, but basically I want to be sure that the themes I'm using will be supported in a year from now. And sometimes what I see is that there are a lot of enthusiasts that create very nice themes, but they won't be supported a few months or a couple of years later. So that being said, the theme that I've used is free. It's called Astra, but they have a premium version. And actually, I've installed the premium version on that install too. Now, the next step is to add the plugins that you need according to the brief for this website. Now, for the free plugins, the easiest way is just to go to Plugins, Add New, and then you start typing the name of the plugin that you want to use, and then you can install it right from the dashboard here, and you can also activate it. Now, the other way to do it is just to upload the plugin. So you click on Upload, and then you're going to choose the file that you've previously downloaded. Either you've downloaded it from the wordpress.org /plugins, or it could be a premium plugin. So I've already installed a few, and actually what you want to do at this stage is to activate only the plugins that you need for the development. And why is that? Well, first of all, for example, here I have the Analytify, which is the Google Analytics dashboard and the dashboard widget. And basically with this tool, I can see the Google Analytics statistics straight from the dashboard of this website. Now, I don't want to add the code for Google Analytics on the development website because I don't want those statistics. I only want the statistics on the production website or the live website if you prefer. So at this stage, I've already installed all plugins, but I did not activate all of them. So some of the plugins that I really enjoy are Analytify, as I've just explained. I use Astra Pro. I use the classic editor, but less and less because I have no issue with Gutenberg actually. Custom fonts, I like to use that because it works. Actually, it was made by the company that actually created the Astra WordPress theme, so it works really well if you want to add custom fonts. I like the easy theme and plugin upgrades because it's really easy when you just want to add a new version of a plugin that doesn't have an automatic update feature. Then you can just, instead of deactivating, deinstalling, and reinstalling, you just reinstall the new file and the plugin is going to work its magic. Element Pack Pro is a third-party add-on for Elementor. Now, of course, I install Elementor and Elementor Pro. Then I install Elementor Extras, which is also a third-party add-on for Elementor. Next, I like to install Envato Element Template Kits. This is outstanding value, beautiful layouts and themes for Elementor. Next, I installed the Jet Theme Core, and the Jet Theme Core is the main plugin for the CrocoBlock suite of plugins. And if you don't know CrocoBlock, basically it's a suite of premium add-ons for Elementor, and they come with a lot of different add-ons such as Jet Elements, Jet Menu, Jet Tabs, Jet Blog, Jet Reviews, Jet Woo Builder, Jet Tricks, Jet Theme Core that we've just talked about, Jet Blocks, Jet Engine, Jet Pop-Up, Jet Smart Filter, Jet Product Gallery, Jet Search, and Jet Compare Wishlist is the latest one, I believe, and they keep adding plugins. Now, I'm not saying you should use all of these on one website, but it's nice to have the option to use some of these tools depending on what you're trying to achieve with the website, and the pricing, in my opinion, is just great. I'm wondering if this may go up at any time, because for $299 one time with unlimited updates, lifetime updates, I mean, that's one of my favorite suite of plugins. It's not perfect, but as I often say, nothing is perfect, but it's really nice, and the development tool is actually quite responsive when there's an issue. So I really recommend CrocoBlock at the time of recording this video, and I'm especially excited by the Jet Engine plugin, but I will have a video just about that. Now back to our list of plugins. The next one in line is Loginizer, which helps to protect your website against brute force attacks. Then I've .NET add-ons for Elementor and the Pro version. As the name says, it's premium add-ons for Elementor. Then I have the Redux framework that I must install if I want to use the WordPress GDPR plugin that I will talk about later on in this video. I also have the SEO Press and SEO Press Pro plugins, and that's everything related to SEO. You may want to use Yoast or some other plugins, but I like SEO Press better. And finally, I like to install WP Rocket, which is my caching plugin, but we'll talk about that later in this video. Next, if you're building an e-commerce website, this may be the time where you want to add the Woocommerce plugin or Easy Digital Download or any other plugin that you may want to use for e-commerce. And at this stage, you should also set up the e-commerce platform, set up the payment processing, all the different tools that you need, the invoices, the connection to PayPal, Stripe, or any other payment processor that you may have. So I'm not going to go deep about e-commerce in this video because this is not the subject of this tutorial, but I may come up with a tutorial specifically about e-commerce, but there are already a lot of tutorials out there. But basically, this is when you would want to add the Woocommerce plugin. And this is also the time where you may want to add all the products for your eShop. Next, I set up the font management for this website. And usually because I use the combo Astra Pro, and Elementor Pro, if you go to Elementor settings, there's an option here where you can check an option, and it says checking this box will disable Elementor's default font and make Elementor inherit the fonts from your theme. Now, I have no problem with using the fonts from Elementor, but as I said, I'm using an add-on called Custom Fonts made by the company who made Astra. So it's really handy to just add the custom fonts and then handle everything in Astra. And because it's added at the level of WordPress, when I'm in Elementor, then I can benefit from those custom fonts too. So that's my way of working. You may prefer to do everything in Elementor. Love Elementor, but for my workflow, I prefer to manage the font within my theme. And today my theme is Astra and Astra Pro. Next, you want to create all the pages of your website. I'm not talking about the content. I'm just talking about creating on Add New, adding a title, and publishing the page. And why do we do that? We do that for the next step. And in the next step, I create a navigation for the site. And in order to create a navigation, I need to have my pages created, and that's what we did in the previous step. So first of all, I will give my navigation a name, and then I will add all the pages to the menu by clicking on the Add to Menu button. And then if it's my primary menu, I make sure I click on the primary menu option. And once I'm happy with it, I just save the navigation. Next, I go to Appearance, Customize. And once I'm in the customizer, I start customizing my theme. So you may have different options and even a different dashboard depending on the theme you're using. But because I'm using Astra Pro, I can manage everything in the WordPress customizer. So I will change things like the logo, the Retina logo. I can also change the site title here. I can also decide if I want to use transparent headers. I can add padding, margin to my headers. I can enable sticky header option, transparent header. I can change the layout for the blog, the sidebar. Well, you get the idea. I'm not going to go through each and every option, but basically at that stage, I'm really going to take care of the cosmetics that are handled by the theme before I move on to Elementor. Next, I'm going to create my personalized header and footer. So I may want to do that with Astra, and I've already created a video about that. And in some cases, I'm going to do it with Elementor. And for that, within the WordPress admin, I just go to the templates section of the admin. It's just below the Elementor item in the navigation, and once I'm in there, I can select if I want to create a header, footer, and a bunch of other elements. So all I need to do is give my header a name, header 01 for example. Then I just click on create a template, and then I can either select the template from the Elementor library, or I can create one from scratch. And once again, I'm not going to go deep into creating a header and a footer today because I've already created a video about that. Next, I create the master page, which is based on the brief, the wireframes, and the mood board that we've created in previous steps. And basically, I'm going to create the home page first, and then I'm going to add a bunch of elements that really follow everything that was laid out on the mood board and previously in the wireframe. So I just follow the structure, but I would add a few items like the buttons, tabs, any type of element that I may want to reuse on other pages. Once I'm happy with the master page design, then I move on to the secondary page design. And basically this would be for pages such as About Us, Contact, and so on. So I'm just going to have a general layout and design. And then of course, I will tweak it depending on the page I'm working on later on in the process. Next, if I run an e-commerce website, then at this stage, I can create a template for the single product page. And for that, I'll go to the theme builder of Elementor, and I can select single, and then in the post tab, I can select the single product. Now, once again, I can either use one of the templates provided by Elementor, and they have some very nice ones, or I can create one from scratch. And as mentioned before, I won't go into detail today because this is not a tutorial about an e-commerce website, nor even a tutorial about full design on Elementor, but just giving you the steps that I use in my workflow. So if you're interested in a tutorial about Woocommerce and the styling with Elementor Pro, just let me know in the comments. But for the time being, all you need to know is that at this stage, you can create the single product template with Elementor Pro. If you have a blog on your website, you may want to create a single post template with the Elementor theme builder. So as seen previously, go to the Elementor theme builder, click add new, then select single post and give it a name. Then click on create templates. And as said before, either you can create one from scratch or you can use one of the templates provided by Elementor. And this is what I've done with one of the templates that Elementor provided. And once you're happy with it, update it. Make sure in the display conditions that you include this template to all posts. And once you're happy with it, save and close, and it should be updating automatically. Next, following the same process, you can also style other pages like archive pages or the 404 page, the search page. So follow the same process. Go to the Elementor theme builder, select single, then select the type of page you want to change. Here I've selected the 404 page, then give it a name, my 404. And once you click on create template, by now you should know that either you can create one from scratch or use one of Elementor templates. So here I've used one of Elementor templates and it looks quite nice, and you can tweak it to your liking the way you used to with Elementor Pro. Next, insert your SEO ready content within Elementor. Now, when I talk about content, I'm not just talking about text, I'm also talking about the images and the alt tags that you should add to your images. Now, this is not a course about SEO, but if you want to be on the first page of Google, it's a fight, it's a challenge, but it starts right here. Next, once your content is inserted, then make sure you optimize it for the tablet and for the smartphone view. Now, this is really important because, as you may know, most of the traffic on a website now is happening on mobile, about 55 to 60% at the time of recording this video. And for some customers, I've seen figures such as 80% on the mobile and 20% on desktop. So make sure you optimize it for the mobile, because Even though many people know that the traffic on mobile is higher than desktop, yet many people still build their website just for the desktop and then they release like a poor version for the mobile. Now, in this kind of tools, such as Elementor Pro, you actually need to start from the desktop because the desktop settings push the settings down the ladder to the tablet and to the mobile. But even though you start with the desktop, you should still do it with the mobile in mind. So make sure your website looks gorgeous on the mobile all the way up to desktop. Next, now may be the time you want to test your website. And when I say test, I mean cross-browser, cross-devices, and cross-operating system. Now, ideally, you would have a Mac computer, a Windows computer, and you would also have an iOS tablet like an iPad and an iPhone. And on the other side, you would have an Android tablet and an Android phone. Now, this is not always possible, especially when starting. So this is the first thing I would do. Usually, I start testing within Chrome. So if I go back to regular view, that's how I view the website in Chrome. Then if you right click and click on inspect, and right up here, you can select the type of device you want to emulate or simulate. So here I've chosen the iPhone 6, 7, 8. I could choose the iPhone 5. I also have the Pixel 2 XL and the Galaxy S5. And actually, if you go to edit, there's a lot of different devices here. So that would be the first level. Now, nothing beats the real thing, so it's always better to test on a real device, in my opinion. But it's already pretty good and pretty solid, because usually when I test it here on Chrome and I test it on my phone, it's exactly the same most of the time. But it's always good to have physical devices too. But at least if there's a big issue, most likely you will see it here first. Now, the next solution is to use a service like cross-browser testing. I haven't tested that service, so I couldn't tell what it's worth. But if I look at the pricing, it starts at $29 monthly up to $100 monthly. Now, for some people, it may seem expensive. For other people, it may seem very cheap. It really depends on whether you're just doing this for yourself, creating a website, for your hobby, or if it's for your business, or maybe your business is creating a website for other customers, then you may need such a solution. But if it's just a website for yourself, then you might be better off asking a friend that has some devices that you don't have, so you can test it if it's just for one website. Now, I've checked on Google and I found a few others like Browserlink. I don't know. I haven't used it, so I couldn't tell you, but you get the idea. If I look at the pricing is cheaper than the one we've just seen previously. So yeah, you should really test those services. Most of these have a free trial, like we see here. They have a free plan, which is limited to 3-minute sessions, but you could test it, and if you like it, you could move on to the premium solution. Another solution, if you own a Mac, is to install Parallels. Parallels is a virtualization software which basically allows you to install Windows on your Mac. Now, you can also do that for free with Bootcamp, but the difference is with Bootcamp, you actually need to reboot your machine and select that boot if you want to boot on Mac OS or on Windows. Whereas with the software like Parallels, you can be within the Mac and then you can launch Windows just in a window, basically. You need a lot of RAM to really be comfortable with that. But that's one solution that I like to use because I don't have to reboot. I don't have to take a lot of space on my hard drive for Windows, because basically I'm only going to use Windows to test website. So I think Parallels is a good solution. It's not free, but it's $79 like one time, and if you upgrade from a previous version, it's $49 for the base license. So basically, you can either test on Chrome, test with friends, test with specialized website, or use a solution like Parallels. Next, if you haven't done it yet, go to Elementor Tools and then click on the Maintenance Mode tab. Make sure you enable maintenance and either select a template that you already saved in the template library or create a new one, and that will be handy for the next step. Next, we want to transfer our development website to the live website. And that's why in the previous step, I asked you to make sure that the maintenance mode is active, because when we transfer the new site to the live version of the site, we don't want people to see an unfinished website. So basically, to transfer your website, you have several solutions. You can do it manually if you know your way around, or if you don't, you can use a plugin like Duplicator, which is a very nice plugin that you can download for free from the WordPress.org website or straight within your dashboard. Now, if you're looking for a premium solution, I like to use Backup Buddy from iThemes. I think it's really handy and they have other features. And actually, I will probably make a video about Backup Buddy. But for the time being, if you want more info, just go to the Backup Buddy website and look at their walkthrough video. Now, for this episode, I'm only mentioning Backup Buddy because I use it to transfer a website from a development website to the live website, and they have a very handy tool for that. So either you can do it manually, you can use a plugin like Duplicator, or you can use Backup Buddy. And if you use Softaculous, there's even an easier solution, because with Softaculous that I've talked about previously, you can actually create a dev WordPress install, and then you can just clone it in one click and send it to the live website. Now, a word of caution though, before you move the development website to the live website, make sure you've made a backup of your live website if this is a redesign. Now, if this is a fresh new website, you're not concerned with that. But once again, if this is a redesign,
make sure you back up the live website first.
Next, now is the time to activate the plugins that we did not activate yet, because there was no point activating it on the development website. And specifically, I'm talking about the Google Analytics plugins. I'm also talking about the SEO plugins, GDPR plugins, and so on. The only plugin I'm not going to activate at this stage is the WP Rocket, which is our caching plugin, and which we'll talk about later. Next, activate and configure social sharing and social communications plugin. Now, if you use Elementor and Elementor Pro, you can actually configure those widgets right inside Elementor. But if you use communication plugins, even like the Facebook comments plugin that you can also insert from Elementor, you need to actually set up the API, which is the way to communicate between the platforms such as Facebook, for example, and your website. And this is why you wanted to do it on the live website and not on the development website. So now is a good time to configure those plugins. Next, now that we're on the live website, it's a good time to make our website GDPR compliant. And for that, I use WordPress GDPR. It's a premium plugin that you can find on Envato Market, and you will find the link in the description of this episode and in the companion blog post. And it's about $15, so it's pretty cheap. And if you want to look at a demo, so here I'm on the demo, I can accept or decline. They've also a privacy center with all the items that are required in the GDPR law. So for example, here, if I click on the privacy settings, I see that these are the necessary settings that I cannot switch off. But then I can switch off the Google Analytics, for example. I can switch off the Google AdWords, Hotjar, Tag Manager, Google AdWords, and so on. And it's pretty handy because nowadays GDPR is there, it's there to stay. Now, maybe you're in the US or you're in another country and you don't feel like you're concerned with GDPR, and that's good news for you, my friend. But for many people, GDPR is a reality, and with GDPR comes responsibilities. And I remember when GDPR was first out, everyone was in panic mode. And with tools such as this plugin, it makes the process way easier. Now, bear in mind that this is only the technical solution, and it doesn't come with the text actually that you need to put in all those items. But once again, I think I will make a video about GDPR because I found a nice place to find some GDPR text from a law firm, and all this is legal. You can use that text, but I'll talk about it in another video. So now is the time to make your website GDPR compliant. Now, the next logical steps is to actually go and insert the codes from the various service providers that generate cookies, such as Facebook with the Facebook Pixel, Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, Pinterest, and so on. So make sure you insert those codes in the GDPR WordPress plugin that I mentioned earlier, or any other plugin or solution that you're using. Now, the next step before moving on is going to settings, reading, and make sure you untick the option to discourage search engines from indexing this site. Once you've unticked the option, click on Save Changes. We will need that for the next steps. Next, install and activate an SEO plugin. Now, one of the most popular plugins is Yoast. I've used it for years, but lately I moved to SEO Press, and I actually moved to the premium version of SEO Press, but they also have a free version. Now, I read a lot of good things about SEO Press, and then I just tested it, and then it just worked. It just snapped. I don't know, this is personal preference, but I also see a lot of people moving away from Yoast. I know Yoast had some issues previously, but I still believe that Yoast is a good product. But when it comes to the premium version, SEO Press comes with a very aggressive pricing. And the thing is, usually if the pricing is aggressive, but the product is crap, I don't really care because I want quality. But from what I can see, from what I heard, from what I read, from what I watched in video reviews, SEO Press actually comes with unique features, and personally, I really enjoy it. So whatever tool you want to install, just install an SEO tool because you will need it if you want to be in the search engine game. The next step is to generate XML sitemaps. Now, I'm using SEO Press, so from the dashboard, I just click on Manage XML Sitemaps. And basically, you want to make sure that the Enable XML Sitemap option is enabled, and then you can go and review the post types, because you can have several sitemaps for the posts, the pages, the media, and a bunch of different type of content, even for custom post types. So make sure you generate XML sitemaps, because that will be crucial later on. Now, the next step is to optimize third-party add-ons for Elementor. Now, I love those add-ons and those plugins because they add a ton of features, and with it, you can create beautiful websites. But the downside is that it adds a lot of bloat to your website, thus making your website slower, and nobody wants a slow website, right? Well, luckily for us, many of these add-ons and plugins allow you to enable or disable the widgets individually, and thus it will make your website way faster. So now is the time to do it. So just go individually through those plugins and those add-ons, and just remove anything that you don't need. So one good practice is, when you're creating the website, to have a document where you just write your project notes. So every time I use one of those widgets from a third-party add-on or plugin, I would write it in that document, and then when I reach that step, it's easy for me to know which plugin I can actually completely disable, or if I cannot disable it completely, which widgets I can disable within that plugin. So make sure you take the time to really optimize your website, especially when it comes to those third-party add-ons for Elementor. The next step is to install and activate a caching plugin. And if you don't know what a caching plugin is, here are a few hints. Caching creates an ultra-fast load time essential for improving search engine optimization and increasing conversions. It reduces the weight of your HTML, JavaScript, and CSS files through minification. Lighter files means faster load times. Images on request. Images are loaded only as your visitor scrolls down the page, improving the load time of the page. YouTube, Facebook, Yahoo, and other major websites are using this technique. Now yours can too. So obviously, this is WP Rocket. It's a premium solution that I'm using and that I recommend. But there are also some free alternatives like WP Super Cache, I believe, and a bunch of other ones that you can find on the WordPress.org plugin repository. But whatever you do, you should use a caching plugin, because if you don't, then you're just going to have a slow website. It's almost guaranteed, unless you're really next to the server and your visitors are next to the server. When I mean next, I mean they're in the same country or in the same city. But if you really want to take this seriously, then you should really install a caching plugin. If you want a free one, there are a bunch, as I said, and if you want a premium solution, this is the one I recommend, WP Rocket. Now, the next step to optimize your website even more is to use a CDN, and CDN stands for Content Delivery Network. Now, there are a few free options, and I believe Cloudflare has a free option if you're looking for some free CDN. You can also use Jetpack from Automatic, which is a company behind WordPress, and it's not a full CDN, but at least for the images, you can use it and it's free. Now, if you don't know what a CDN is, let me show you. So usually when you load a web page, let's say that you are in Australia and you're visiting a website that's physically hosted in Austria, for example. So it has to go through a few thousand miles to actually get each image and each asset that is physically hosted in Austria. Now, what a CDN does is that it's going to replicate the content on a bunch of servers around the world. And that's what you see here on the map. So if you're in Australia, instead of going and fetching that image from Austria, which will be around here, then you can just fetch it straight from the server in New Zealand or in Australia. So that's what the CDN is all about. And Bunny CDN is actually dirt cheap. So let me show you the pricing. Pay only for the bytes that you use, toggle any region on and off. And basically what you can do is you can buy a prepaid credit, like let's say $25, for example. And every time someone would use a gigabyte, you will pay 1 cent of a dollar. So unless you have a lot of traffic, trust me, those $25 are going to be there for a long time. And if you start getting traffic, well, you're going to pay more, obviously, but it's good news because if you get more traffic and you're doing things right, it means you have more revenue. So you can actually afford to buy some extra credits. But even before you reach that level, it's really dirt cheap. And they have a nice tool on their website where you can actually estimate your monthly bill. So just imagine that you have 300 gigabytes of bandwidth used from Europe and North America and 50 gigabytes from Asia, then your monthly bill would be $4.50 on premium and $1.75 if you use the volume option. So that's a great tool. I use it myself. It's working great. Now, as I said, there are free alternatives like Cloudflare if you're in for a free service. But if you want a premium service, I definitely recommend Bunny CDN. Now, the next step is to install and set up a security plugin. Now, there are a few alternatives available out there. One of the most popular is Wordpress. They come with a free version and a premium version. You also have iTheme Security, that's very popular. And once again, they have a free and a premium version. Security also has a WordPress plugin. Now, we also have All-in-One WP Security and Bulletproof Security Pro. So there are a lot of different alternatives, and basically it's really up to you. You should test some of these, really read through it. I cannot really recommend one because I've moved on to a different solution, but there are tons of solutions. Now, you actually really need to test it out with your specific configuration because it will depend on your server, how your server is set up. And even though you don't do this yourself, it may be a web host, then some of these plugins are going to work better than others. So you should definitely try the free versions. And once you feel comfortable with one, then if you need the options, you may want to go with the premium option. Now, at this stage, once again, now is the time to go and test your website on different browsers, on different devices, and possibly on different operating systems, because you've installed everything and you've set up the security, the cache, and CDN, and you want to be sure that everything is working smoothly. So take the time, test, and debug, and once you're ready, move to the next step. Next, now is the time to add your website to the various search engines. Now, as you may know, Google is the most popular one, and to add your website to Google, you actually need to do that through the Google Search Console. So just click on Start Now and follow the instruction on screen. Now, don't forget the other search engines such as Bing, and for that you need to use Bing Webmaster Tools, and once again, click on Sign In and follow the instructions on screen. The next step is to make a full backup of the live website. Now, just imagine everything you've been working on. If you lost the website now, you probably go crazy. So make sure you make a backup with some of the tools or any of the tools that we've mentioned earlier. So you could do it manually, you could use Duplicator, Backup Buddy, or any other solution that you prefer. And once you've made the backup, actually test that the backup works. And for that, create a new development environment, same way we've shown at the beginning of this video. Create a new environment and then restore the backup from the backup that you've just made. And once you're sure that it works, you can move on to the next step. Now for the next and final step, go to Elementor, Tools, and when you're in Tools, click on the Maintenance Mode tab. Make sure you disable the maintenance and click on Save Changes. And once you've done that, your website is actually launched. You've gone through all the steps, and by the way, congratulations if you made it to the end of this video, because there were a lot of steps involved. But basically, this is the workflow that I personally follow when I work on a website. Now, I couldn't go deep into each and every item because then it would take hours or even days if I had to explain everything I go through, because I didn't really talk about the content. I didn't talk about conversion. I didn't talk about really all the details when you need to set up an e-commerce website. But basically, I hope that this has helped you to see the process that I use, and that it can inspire you and help you when you'll be actually working on your next project. So we've covered a lot of ground, and congrats to you if you made it that far. Now, you will find all the links of the tools mentioned today in the companion blog post, for which I've put a link in the description of this episode. Now, that was a lot of info, but bear in mind that this was just the workflow for a basic website. Nothing fancy, no special functionalities, no e-commerce, no custom post types, nada. And I didn't even go into the details such as how to look for images that convert, how to write compelling copy, and so on. So the next time that someone tells you that creating a website is super easy and shouldn't take you more than a few hours,
Please point them to this video.
So I hope that you enjoyed this episode and that it will help you as a reference for your next website projects. Now, if there's anything that I left out and that you do on each project, please let me know in the comments of this episode. And by the way, you'll find the companion blog post on my website, Casino.com. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please like it, as it really helps growing this channel. And if you know someone that could benefit from it, please share it now. If you're not a subscriber, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and smash the notification bell so that you don't miss anything. Now, if you want to brand, market, and grow your business in the digital age, then make sure you subscribe to my email newsletter so that you never miss a share of digital alchemy, as well as tips, tools, services, and case studies that can help you grow your business online. So that's it for this episode. I hope to see you around. And in the meantime, don't forget to invest
In your success.